Marcus Chun had always been a light sleeper. Growing up in the cramped quarters of Earth's underground colonies, every sound meant potential danger. The air recyclers clicking off meant suffocation within hours. Footsteps in the corridor could signal security raids or worse. So when he woke up that morning feeling strangely refreshed, something was definitely wrong. The first thing he noticed was the silence. Not the usual hum of life support systems or the distant rumble of mining equipment. Just pure, impossible silence. The second thing he noticed was that he wasn't cold. In the underground colonies, you always woke up cold. The heating systems were rationed, and everyone slept fully clothed under 3 regulation blankets. But Marcus was lying there in nothing but his underwear completely uncovered and perfectly comfortable. He sat up slowly, his engineer's mind already cataloging the impossibilities. The air felt different against his skin. Warmer, yes, but also cleaner somehow. He took a deep breath and nearly choked. There was no metallic tang of recycled atmosphere, no underlying scent of industrial lubricants and unwashed bodies. The air tasted fresh, like the stories the old-timers told about Earth's surface before the collapse. Marcus swung his legs over the side of his bunk and froze. This wasn't his bunk. This wasn't his room. Hell, this wasn't even his body. He looked down at his hands in the dim light, filtering through what appeared to be a window. An actual window, not a monitor displaying surface feeds. His hands are different. Still his hands, he could feel that somehow, but the calluses from years of maintenance work were gone. The burn scar on his left palm from a plasma coupling accident had vanished. His fingers were longer, more nimble-looking. Standing carefully, Marcus made his way to the window. What he saw outside defied everything he thought he knew about the universe. Rolling green hills stretched to the horizon under a blue sky dotted with white clouds. Trees, actual living trees, not the scraggly hydroponic specimens in the colony's agricultural sections. Swayed in a breeze, he could somehow feel through the glass. In the distance, a river wound through the landscape like a silver ribbon, its water sparkling in sunlight that didn't come from fusion reactors or LED arrays. "This can't be real," Marcus whispered, but his voice sounded wrong too. Clearer, stronger. He touched his throat and felt the difference immediately. The chronic rasp from years of breathing recycled air was gone. Behind him, a door he hadn't noticed before slid open with a soft hiss. Marcus spun around, his body moving with a fluidity that felt both familiar and completely alien. A figure stepped into the room, and Marcus's heart nearly stopped. It looked human, but wrong in subtle ways that screamed danger to his colony-trained instincts. Too tall, too perfectly proportioned. Its skin had a faint luminescent quality, and its eyes held depths that seemed to go on forever. When it spoke, its voice carried harmonics that made Marcus's bones vibrate. "Greetings, Marcus Chun of Earth Colony Designation 847 Alpha. I am Observer Zethys of the Galactic Evaluation Council. Please remain calm while I explain your situation." Marcus laughed, a sound that came out clearer and more musical than his old voice ever managed. "Remain calm? I wake up in what looks like paradise with a body that isn't mine, and you want me to remain calm." Zethys tilted its head in what might have been surprise. "Your psychological adaptation rate is unusual. Most specimens require significant time to process the transition." Specimens. The word hit Marcus like a physical blow. "What the hell did you do to me? We have temporarily relocated your consciousness to an enhanced biological form for evaluation purposes. Your original body remains in stasis within your colony's sleeping quarters. This process allows us to assess your species' true potential without the limitations imposed by your harsh environment." Marcus felt his enhanced muscles tense. Ready for a fight, his logical mind knew he couldn't win. "Assess our potential for what?" "For membership in the galactic community." Zethys moved closer, its movements too smooth, too graceful. "Your species has reached a critical juncture. The evaluation will determine whether humanity is offered technological assistance to reclaim your homeworld, or if you are classified as a contained species and left to your current trajectory toward extinction." The weight of those words settled on Marcus like a collapsed tunnel. Everything he'd ever known, Everyone he'd ever cared about hung in the balance of whatever this evaluation entailed. "Why me?" he asked. "I'm nobody special. Just a maintenance engineer from a dying colony." "That," Zethys said, "is precisely why you were chosen. We have observed your species for 3 of your centuries. We know of your leaders, your scientists, your warriors. But we needed to understand your common individuals, those who survive and adapt without recognition or glory." Marcus looked out the window again at the impossible landscape. "And if I fail this evaluation?" Failure is not a binary concept in this context. You cannot fail to be what you are. However, the interpretation of what you are will determine your species' fate. Zethys paused, studying Marcus with those 2 deep eyes. "You should know that you're not the only human currently undergoing evaluation. 12 of your kind have been selected from various colonies and surface settlements. Your collective performance will inform our decision. Where are the others?" Each faces challenges tailored to their background and psychological profile. You will encounter some of them as the evaluation progresses, but for now, you must focus on your own trial. Marcus turned from the window to face the alien directly. "What kind of trial?" "You will be presented with scenarios that test the qualities your species claims to value: courage, creativity, compassion, and adaptability. However, you will face these challenges with enhanced physical and mental capabilities. We wish to see not just who you are, but who you could become." The alien gestured toward what Marcus now realized was a sophisticated control panel disguised as a simple wooden dresser. Symbols appeared in the air above it, glowing with soft blue light. "Your first scenario will begin once you are prepared. You may take time to adjust to your new form and explore this environment. When you are ready, simply touch the activation symbol." One of the glowing marks pulsed brighter. "Remember, Marcus Chun, you carry the hopes of your entire species." Zethys turned to leave, then paused. "One more thing you should understand. The enhanced form you now inhabit represents what your species could naturally become, given proper nutrition, clean environment, and genetic optimization. This is not alien technology grafted onto your being. This is humanity unleashed." With that, the observer glided from the room, leaving Marcus alone with possibilities that made his head spin. He spent the next hour exploring his new body and the strange room. His enhanced muscles responded to thought almost before he consciously decided to move. When he picked up objects, he could feel their molecular structure through his fingertips. His vision extended further into both infrared and ultraviolet spectrums, revealing details in the landscape outside that defied description. Most remarkably, his mind felt clearer and faster than ever before. Problems that would have taken him hours to work through in the colony now resolved themselves in minutes. He found himself understanding concepts about physics and engineering that had always been just beyond his grasp. But with the enhanced awareness came enhanced understanding of what was at stake. 12 humans, representatives of a dying species, being tested by beings so advanced they might as well be gods. The weight of that responsibility should have crushed him, but instead, Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced since childhood: hope. He walked to the control panel and studied the glowing symbols. His enhanced mind could almost grasp their meaning, as if the knowledge was just slightly out of reach. The activation symbol pulsed steadily, waiting. Marcus thought about the colony, about the friends and fellow workers who might never see clean air or feel natural sunlight. He thought about the surface settlements struggling to reclaim a poisoned world. He thought about the children born into a reality of recycled everything and rationed hope. Then, he thought about what Zethys had said. This enhanced form wasn't alien technology. It was human potential realized. It was what they could all become if given the chance. He reached out and touched the activation symbol. The world around him dissolved into streams of light and possibility, and Marcus Chun, enhanced human and reluctant representative of his species, stepped forward into his first trial with the determination of someone who had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. The light faded, and Marcus found himself standing in what appeared to be the command center of a massive starship. Holographic displays showed star charts, tactical readouts, and ship status information that his enhanced mind immediately began to interpret. Warning klaxons blared from every direction, and the deck beneath his feet vibrated with the ship's massive engines straining at maximum output. A figure rushed toward him from across the command center, and Marcus's heart leaped with recognition. It was Sarah Kim, a hydroponics engineer from Colony 623 Beta. He'd met her years ago at an inter-colony technical conference. She looked as enhanced as he felt, her usually tired eyes now bright with startled awareness. "Marcus? Is that really you?" Sarah's voice carried the same improved clarity his own had gained. "Sarah, you're one of the 12. Relief flooded through him. At least he wasn't facing this alone. "The 12 what? I just woke up an hour ago in some kind of garden paradise, and now I'm on a starship that's apparently under attack." She gestured at the displays around them. "Please tell me you understand what's happening." Before Marcus could answer, another voice cut through the alarm noise. "Both of you, get to the engineering stations now. We got maybe 10 minutes before this ship's drive core goes critical." They turned to see a man Marcus didn't recognize racing toward them. He was tall and lean, with the bearing of someone used to command. His enhanced features suggested another of their number. "I'm Commander James Wright, formerly of Surface Settlement New Denver. I've been here for 3 hours trying to figure out how to prevent a catastrophe that will kill approximately 50,000 beings." He pointed at the tactical display, showing 3 massive ships pursuing their vessel. "Those are HFY raiders. They've been chasing a refugee ship for 6 days, and they've finally caught up." Marcus's enhanced mind immediately began processing the tactical situation. The refugee ship was massive, but clearly damaged, its energy signatures inconsistent and fluctuating. The pursuing ships were smaller, but obviously military vessels, bristling with weapons and closing fast. "Where's the crew?" Sarah asked. "Infected with some kind of neural parasite that puts them in a catatonic state. The ship's been running on automated systems, but those systems are failing. The refugees are mostly non-combatant families from a dozen different species. They can't defend themselves." Marcus moved to the nearest engineering station and found that his hands seemed to know exactly what to do. Information flowed into his consciousness as if he'd trained on these systems his entire life. "The drive core isn't just going critical," he said after a moment. "Someone sabotaged it. The containment field has been deliberately destabilized." "The raiders?" Sarah asked, taking position at another console. "No," James said grimly. "The signatures are wrong. This was done by someone with intimate knowledge of the ship's systems. Someone on board." The 3 humans exchanged glances, and Marcus felt the weight of the situation settling on all of them. This wasn't just a technical challenge or a rescue scenario. This was a test of their judgment, their ability to make difficult decisions under pressure. "We need more information," Marcus said. "Sarah, can you access the passenger manifest and crew records?" "James, I need you to coordinate with the ship's tactical systems and see what options we have for dealing with the raiders. I'm going to try to stabilize the drive core long enough for us to figure out who the saboteur is." As they worked, Marcus marveled at how naturally the enhanced abilities came to them. His fingers flew over controls that should have taken years to master, while his mind processed data streams that would have overwhelmed him in his original form. But more than the individual capabilities, he noticed how effortlessly they had fallen into working as a team. No power struggles, no hesitation to trust each other's expertise. "Got something?" Sarah called out. "There's a passenger listed as Dr. Vesk Thornfield, specialist in drive core technology. But according to the crew logs, he insisted on being given access to engineering sections despite being a passenger." And James added from the tactical station, "The raiders have been maintaining pursuit for 6 days, but haven't fired a single shot. They're hurting the ship, not hunting it." Marcus felt pieces of the puzzle clicking into place in his enhanced mind. They're not trying to destroy the ship. They're trying to force it to a specific location. The sabotage isn't meant to destroy the drive core immediately. It's meant to disable the ship's jump capability while keeping it mobile enough to reach wherever they want it to go. "Which means," Sarah prompted, "the refugees aren't running from the HFY. They're being delivered to them." The implications hit all 3 of them simultaneously. This wasn't a rescue scenario at all. It was something far more complex, involving betrayal, human trafficking on a galactic scale, and the question of whether they could trust anyone in a situation where lives hung in the balance. "We need to get a Dr. Thornfield," James said. "If he's working with the Raiders." "We need to be careful," Marcus interrupted. "We don't know who else might be involved. And we still have 47 minutes before the drive core goes critical." As if summoned by their conversation, the ship's intercom crackled to life with a voice speaking in accented standard. "Attention, unknown persons in the command center. You are interfering with a legal salvage operation. Stand down immediately or face the consequences." The three enhanced humans looked at each other, and Marcus saw his own determination reflected in their faces. Whatever this evaluation was really testing, they were about to find out. "Legal salvage operation?" Sarah said with bitter humor. "Over 50,000 refugees in stasis, and it's legal. Not if we have anything to say about it," James replied, his command training evident in his voice. Marcus nodded, feeling something awakening in his chest that he'd never experienced before. It wasn't just anger at injustice or determination to solve a technical problem. It was something larger, more fundamental. It was the feeling of being capable of making a real difference. "Then, let's get to work," he said, and began the process of saving 50,000 lives while unraveling a conspiracy that reached across the stars. The journey to the engineering section took them through corridors filled with the eerie sight of crew members standing motionless at their stations. The neural parasites had left them conscious but completely unresponsive, their eyes staring at nothing while their bodies remained perfectly still. Marcus found it more disturbing than if they had simply been unconscious. How many crew members?" Sarah asked as they passed another group of frozen figures. "Ship's manifest shows 412, James replied, consulting a portable display unit he'd acquired from the command center. "All different species, all showing the same symptoms." Marcus paused beside one of the affected crew members, a tall being with blue-scaled skin and forearms. "Wait, look at their eyes." The others stopped and examined the crew member more closely. The being's eyes weren't completely vacant as they had initially appeared. There was something there, a subtle tracking movement that followed their presence. "They're aware," Sarah breathed. "They can see us, but they can't respond." "Which means they might be able to provide information," Marcus realized. "We just need to figure out how to communicate with them." James activated his display unit and began cycling through various interface options. The ship's medical bay might have equipment for monitoring neural activity. "If we can establish some kind of yes-no communication." "That'll take too much time," Marcus interrupted. "We got 39 minutes left." He moved closer to the blue-scaled crew member and spoke directly to him. "If you can understand us, track your eyes upward for yes, downward for no." The being's eyes immediately flicked upward. "Good. Are there other saboteurs besides Dr. Thornfield?" "Downward movement, no." "Is Thornfield working directly with the Kethvar Raiders?" "Upward, yes." "Are the refugees really refugees? Or is this something else?" A pause, then the eyes moved in a diagonal pattern, neither clearly up nor down. Sarah caught on immediately. "Some are refugees, some aren't." "Upward, yes." Marcus felt his enhanced mind racing through possibilities. "Are some of the refugees actually prisoners being transported?" "Upward, yes." "Are we being tested somehow? Is this scenario designed to evaluate us specifically?" The being's eyes widened, and for a moment Marcus thought he might not answer. Then, slowly, the eyes tracked upward. "So the Evaluation Council set this up," James said grimly. "They're testing how we handle a complex moral situation." "Which means," Sarah added, "there might not be a simple solution. They want to see how we prioritize, how we make decisions when there's no clearly right answer." Marcus nodded, but something bothered him about the scenario. "Ask him if the drive core explosion is real or simulated." Sarah posed the question, and the being's eyes tracked upward without hesitation. "So people really will die if we don't stop it," Marcus concluded. "Enhanced or not, these aren't just holographic projections. This is real." They resumed their journey toward engineering, moving faster now. The corridors grew warmer as they approached the ship's power core, and Marcus could feel the increasing radiation levels against his enhanced senses. His improved physiology could handle far more than his original body, but even enhanced humans had limits. There, James pointed ahead to a massive reinforced doorway marked with symbols that Marcus's mind automatically translated as primary engineering, authorized personnel only. The door stood open, and beyond it they could see a figure in engineering coveralls working frantically at a control console, surrounded by holographic displays showing the drive core's deteriorating status. Dr. Vesk Thornfield was not what Marcus had expected. Rather than the stereotypical villain, he appeared to be a middle-aged man of mixed Earth Asian descent, his face showing genuine distress as he worked. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the environmental controls, and his movements had the desperate quality of someone racing against time. Dr. Thornfield, Marcus called out as they entered the engineering section. The man spun around, his eyes wide with a mixture of relief and fear. "Thank the spirits. Are you part of the crew? I've been trying to stabilize the core for hours, but whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing." Marcus exchanged glances with Sarah and James. Either Thornfield was an exceptional actor or their information was wrong. "We know you sabotaged the drive core," James said bluntly. Thornfield's face went through a rapid series of expressions: confusion, shock, and then understanding. "You think I'm working with the Raiders? Because I requested access to engineering sections." "Are you?" Sarah asked directly. "Look at the sabotage pattern," Thornfield said, gesturing to the displays. "This was done by someone with intimate knowledge of Kethvar drive technology. I've been studying their systems for 15 years, trying to develop defenses against exactly this kind of attack." Marcus moved to the displays and began analyzing the data with his enhanced capabilities. What he saw made his stomach drop. He's right. This sabotage was designed to look like Kethvar work, but the actual technique is completely different. "Explain," James demanded. The Kethvar would have simply overloaded the containment field for a quick catastrophic failure. This sabotage creates a slow cascade that gives the appearance of system failure, while actually maintaining just enough stability to keep the ship mobile. Marcus paused as another realization hit him. It also creates a signature that would make it impossible to track who really did it. Thornfield nodded grimly. Someone wanted this ship to reach a specific destination while appearing to be victim of a Kethvar attack. But they also wanted to be able to pin the blame on either the Raiders or a convenient scapegoat. "Like a passenger who happened to be an expert in drive technology," Sarah said. "Exactly. And I think I know who really did it." Thornfield activated another display showing crew duty rosters. 3 days ago, Chief Engineering Officer Zexhai was working alone in this section for 4 hours during the night shift. The sabotage program shows initial implementation exactly during that time frame. Marcus felt pieces clicking into place. "Where's Zexhai now?" "Command center, I assume. He's been coordinating the ship's automated responses to the Raider pursuit." "No," James said slowly. "We've been in the command center for the last hour. There was no one there except automated systems." The implications of that hung in the air for a moment before Thornfield spoke. If Zexhai isn't at his post during a crisis like this, he's either dead or he's somewhere he doesn't want to be found. Marcus finished. Sarah had moved to another console and was accessing ship's internal sensors. "I'm showing life signs in Cargo Bay 7. That's odd. That bay is supposed to be empty according to the manifest." "How many life signs?" James asked. 47, all showing elevated stress indicators. Marcus felt his enhanced intuition putting together a pattern that made him feel sick. "Thornfield, what kind of cargo does this ship usually carry?" "Various things, but this particular run was supposed to be purely passenger transport for the refugee families." He paused, understanding dawning on his face. Unless someone was using the refugee transport as cover for something else. "Cargo Bay 7, James said decisively. "We need to get there and find out what's really happening." As they prepared to leave engineering, Thornfield held up a hand. "Wait, I can stabilize the drive core temporarily, but it will take me another 20 minutes. You'll need to handle whatever you find in that cargo bay without me." "Can you really fix it?" Sarah asked. "I could buy us time. Maybe an hour, maybe 2. But if Zexai has access to the engineering systems remotely, he can restart the cascade anytime he wants. Marcus made a decision that felt natural in his enhanced state, but would have paralyzed him with doubt in his original form. Sarah, stay with Thornfield. Your hydroponics background means you understand life support systems better than any of us. James, you and are going to Cargo Bay 7. You sure about splitting up? James asked. No, Marcus admitted. But we're out of time for perfect plans. As they left engineering, Marcus found himself thinking about the crew member who had confirmed this was a real test. The Evaluation Council wasn't just testing their problem-solving abilities or their courage. They were testing their judgment, their ability to make difficult decisions with incomplete information, and live with the consequences. The journey to Cargo Bay 7 took them deeper into the ship's structure, through areas that showed signs of hasty modification. New bulkheads had been installed, and the environmental systems had been upgraded beyond standard specifications. This isn't passenger space, James observed. This has been converted for something else. As they approached the cargo bay, they could hear sound from within. Not mechanical noises, but something that made Marcus's enhanced hearing identify as distress vocalizations from multiple species. James, Marcus said quietly, I think we're about to find out why the Kethvar have been hurting this ship rather than attacking it. The cargo bay's control panel showed a complex security lock that would normally have taken specialized equipment to bypass. But Marcus found that his enhanced abilities included an intuitive understanding of such systems. His fingers moved across the interface almost automatically, and within minutes the locks disengaged. The doors slid open to reveal a sight that burned itself into Marcus's memory. 47 beings of various species were confined in what could only be described as high-tech cages. Not the crude imprisonment Marcus had expected, but sophisticated containment systems designed to keep the occupants healthy while preventing any possibility of escape. These weren't refugees. These were prisoners being transported somewhere against their will. One of the confined beings, a humanoid with silver skin and large dark eyes, approached the front of her containment unit. When she spoke, her voice carried the harmonic quality Marcus had learned to associate with advanced species. Are you here to help us, or to inspect the cargo? Help, Marcus said immediately. We're trying to figure out what's happening on this ship. The crew was infected 3 days ago, shortly after we were brought aboard. The Kethvar have been pursuing us, but they're not our captors. They're trying to prevent our delivery to those who purchased us. James stepped forward. Purchased? You're talking about slavery. Sophisticated slavery. We are all specialists, scientists, engineers, artists, philosophers. Our captors believe that certain species produce more value when compelled to work rather than when hired or contracted. Marcus felt rage building in his chest, but his enhanced emotional control kept it focused and useful rather than overwhelming. Who arranged this? A consortium of species that call themselves the Efficiency Collective. They have convinced certain governing bodies that slavery increases productivity and economic output. And the refugee families on this ship? They are genuine refugees, being used as cover for our transport. If the transaction is completed, they will be sold as well, though for labor rather than specialized work. The full scope of what they were facing hit Marcus like a physical blow. This wasn't just about stopping sabotage or preventing an explosion. This was about stopping a slave trade operation that used refugee transport as cover. How do we free you? James asked. The containment systems are controlled from a central console on this level. But be warned, the person who arranged this has been planning for interruption. There are fail-safe systems in place. Marcus located the central console and began examining its interfaces. What he found made his enhanced mind recoil with disgust. The fail-safe systems weren't designed to prevent escape. They were designed to eliminate evidence. If anyone tries to free you without the proper authorization codes, the containment units flood with neurotoxin, he said quietly. Which means we need to find Zexai and get the codes from him, James concluded. But even as they prepared to hunt down the chief engineering officer, Marcus found himself wondering about something that had been nagging at him since this scenario began. The Evaluation Council had said this test was designed to reveal human potential and values. But What values were they really testing when they presented a scenario involving slavery, betrayal, and impossible moral choices? Was the test to see if humans would risk their own lives to save others? Or was it something more complex, a test of how they would handle the knowledge that sometimes saving some people meant condemning others? As if summoned by his thoughts, the ship's intercom crackled to life again. But this time, the voice was different, older, with the cold precision of someone used to absolute authority. Attention, unknown persons interfering with Cargo Bay 7. You have 1 hour to cease your activities and return to your assigned quarters. Failure to comply will result in the immediate execution of all passengers, refugees, and cargo alike. Marcus and James looked at each other, and Marcus saw his own determination reflected in the other man's face. "Guess we know where we stand," James said. "Yeah," Marcus replied. "Now we find out what humans are really made of." The hunt for Zexhai led Marcus and James through sections of the ship they hadn't seen before. Using the internal sensor network, they tracked life signs to what appeared to be a secondary command center hidden behind what looked like a standard maintenance area. "Clever," James observed as they approached the concealed entrance. Close enough to the main systems to maintain control, but isolated enough to avoid detection. Marcus examined the hidden door security system and found it more sophisticated than anything else they'd encountered on the ship. This wasn't installed recently. This whole operation was planned months in advance. As they worked to bypass the security, Marcus found himself thinking about the imprisoned beings in Cargo Bay 7. The silver-skinned woman had spoken with such dignity despite her circumstances. Her words about the Kethvar trying to prevent their delivery had completely reframed the situation. "James, what if we've been thinking about this all wrong?" "How do you mean?" "The raiders pursuing the ship. What if they're not raiders at all? What if they're law enforcement trying to stop a slave transport?" James paused in his work on the door. "That would explain why they've been hurting rather than attacking. They want to stop the ship without killing the prisoners. Which means our real enemies aren't the Kethvar outside the ship. They're whoever is running this slave operation." The security system finally yielded to their enhanced abilities, and the hidden door slid open to reveal a command center that was far more advanced than the main bridge. Multiple holographic displays showed not just the current situation, but what appear to be shipping schedules, financial records, and personnel files for dozens of operations. At the center of it all sat Chief Engineering Officer Zexhai, or rather, the being who had been using that identity. His true form was revealed now that he wasn't maintaining a disguise, a tall, insectoid creature with 4 arms and compound eyes that could track multiple targets simultaneously. "Ah," he said without turning around, "the enhanced humans. I wonder when you would find your way here." "You know what we are?" Marcus asked. "Of course. The Evaluation Council's latest experiment in species assessment. Quite clever of them to place you in the middle of one of our operations. They get to test your capabilities while we get to see how much of a threat your enhanced forms represent." Zexhai swiveled in his chair to face them, and Marcus was struck by the cold intelligence in those compound eyes. This wasn't just a smuggler or opportunist. This was something far more dangerous. "You're not just running this single operation," James realized. "You're collecting data on us. The Efficiency Collective has been monitoring human colonies for some time. Your species shows interesting potential for both productivity and control. But these enhanced versions," he gestured at them with one of his 4 arms. "These represent a significant variable in our calculations." Marcus felt pieces clicking together in his enhanced mind. "The neural parasites affecting the crew. You developed them specifically to test whether our enhanced forms have resistance to mental control. Among other things, your performance so far has been illuminating. Enhanced physical capabilities, improved cognitive processing, and, most interestingly, an apparently unshakable moral compass despite your desperate circumstances. Where are the authorization codes for the containment units?" James demanded. Zexhai's compound eyes focused on him with what might have been amusement. Straight to the point. Very human. "The codes change every hour and are biometrically locked to my nervous system. Even if you killed me, which your moral compass wouldn't permit, you couldn't access them. Marcus studied the displays around the command center, his enhanced mind processing information faster than ever before. But you can't complete the delivery without stopping the drive core cascade. And you can't stop the cascade without going to engineering yourself, which means leaving this command center. Correct. Which is why I've been waiting for you to arrive. You see, enhanced humans, you're going to help me complete this operation. Like how we are, James said. Oh, but you are. Because if you don't, I will trigger the immediate execution of every prisoner in Cargo Bay 7, followed by the release of neurotoxin throughout the refugee sections. 50,000 beings will die in agony, and their deaths will be on your conscience. The cold calculation in that statement hit Marcus like a physical blow. This wasn't just a threat. It was a psychological trap designed to exploit exactly the moral principles that defined humanity. But HFY continued, if you assist me in completing the delivery, only the 47 specialists will be sold into slavery. The refugee families will be released at their intended destination, unharmed and unaware of what they were carrying. You're asking us to choose between mass murder and slavery, Marcus said. I'm presenting you with reality. Sometimes, enhanced humans, the choice is not between good and evil. Sometimes the choice is between greater and lesser evils. Your evaluation council wants to see how your species handles such decisions. Marcus felt his enhanced mind racing through possibilities, looking for the third option that his human nature insisted must exist. Meanwhile, his enhanced hearing picked up something that HFY apparently hadn't noticed. The subtle vibration patterns that indicated someone moving through the ship's ventilation system. Sarah. He forced himself not to react to this knowledge while continuing to engage HFY in conversation. How do we know you'll honor your word about the refugees? You don't. But you do know what will happen if you refuse. Certainty versus uncertainty. Another interesting choice for your evaluators to consider. James had also noticed the vibration patterns, Marcus realized, because his posture had subtly shifted to a position that would give Sarah a clear line of approach from the ventilation access point behind HFY's chair. What exactly would you need us to do? James asked, clearly stalling for time. Accompany me to engineering and use your enhanced abilities to properly stabilize the drive core. Then, assist in preparing the cargo for transfer when we reach the delivery point. Cargo, Marcus said with disgust. You're talking about people. I'm talking about resources. Your species' tendency toward emotional attachment to other beings is both your greatest weakness and your most interesting feature. The collective has not yet decided whether it represents value or liability. The ventilation grate above and behind HFY moved slightly, but the being was too focused on monitoring their reactions to notice. Marcus caught the briefest glimpse of Sarah positioning herself for whatever she had planned. Before we agree to anything, Marcus said, I want to see proof that you can actually stop the drive core cascade. HFY's compound eyes shifted to examine Marcus more closely. You doubt my technical capabilities? I doubt everything about this situation. If you're going to demand our cooperation, I want to know you can deliver on your promises. Very well. I will demonstrate my control over the ship's systems. HFY began manipulating controls on his console. Observe the drive core status. The displays showed the cascade effect slowing, the containment field stabilizing, and the critical failure countdown extending from minutes to hours. But as HFY focused on this demonstration, Sarah struck. She dropped from the ventilation system directly onto the insectoid's back, her enhanced strength and speed allowing her to move faster than his reflexes could counter. But instead of attacking him directly, she was doing something to the base of his skull where his nervous system connected to the command interfaces. Neural override Jack, she called out as she worked. I've been studying the ship's biological interface systems since we split up. If I can access his neural command pathways. HFY writhed and clicked in what Marcus assumed was either pain or outrage, but Sarah's position gave her leverage to maintain her hold. Got it. I'm downloading the authorization codes directly from his neural interface. Alarms began blaring throughout the hidden command center as HFY's involuntary neural inputs triggered security systems. Marcus and James rushed to the control consoles, using their enhanced abilities to process the flood of information appearing on the displays. "He's got a dead man's switch tied to his life signs," James called out. "If his heart stops or his neural activity drops below a certain threshold, it triggers the executions. Then we keep him alive, but unconscious," Sarah replied, adjusting her grip. "Marcus, I need you to access the medical systems and prepare a neural sedative, something that will keep his life signs stable, but render him unconscious." Marcus's enhanced mind immediately began processing the ship's medical database, finding and synthesizing the required compounds with a speed that would have been impossible in his original form. But even as he worked, part of his attention was caught by something on one of HFY's displays. "Sarah, James, look at this. The delivery location, it's not what we thought." The coordinates shown on the display were for a location in the same system where the HFY ships were supposedly based. But the additional data revealed something that changed everything. "It's a prison facility," James said, reading over Marcus's shoulder. "A HFY prison facility. The HFY aren't trying to stop the slave trade," Marcus realized. "They're trying to stop their own prison from being filled with illegally captured beings." Sarah maintained her neural interface with the increasingly groggy HFY. "The authorization codes are more complex than I thought. It's not just a simple unlock command. There's a whole protocol for safe release that has to be followed exactly, or the neurotoxin releases anyway." "How long?" Marcus asked as he completed the synthesis of the neural sedative. 20 minutes to download the complete protocol. But I can give you the emergency authorization to at least access the containment controls now." Marcus felt the weight of decision pressing on him again. 20 minutes might be too long. The HFY ships were closing their pursuit pattern, and if they reached the prison facility before the slaves could be freed, the opportunity might be lost forever. But rushing the process could kill the very people they were trying to save. "Do it," he decided. "Give me the emergency authorization, and I'll start the release process while you download the complete protocol." As the authorization codes flowed into his enhanced mind, Marcus felt something that went beyond just satisfaction at solving a problem. For the first time in his life, he was making decisions that could literally save thousands of lives. The enhanced abilities weren't just making him stronger or smarter. They were making him capable of taking responsibility on a scale he never could have imagined. "James, I need you to go to Cargo Bay 7 and start the release sequence. Follow my instructions exactly. Sarah, keep working on that download. I'm going to try to establish communication with the HFY ships and find out if they really are trying to help." As they split up to execute their plan, Marcus couldn't help but think about what Observer Zethys had said about this enhanced form representing human potential unleashed. It wasn't just about individual capability. It was about the ability to work together, to trust each other, and to make moral choices even when the stakes were impossibly high. The evaluation wasn't just testing whether humans deserve to survive. It was testing whether they deserve to thrive. And Marcus was beginning to understand that the answer to that question would determine not just humanity's fate, but the fate of thousands of other beings who had been caught in the crossfire of galactic politics and greed. He activated the communications array and began transmitting to the HFY ships, hoping that his enhanced intuition about their true purpose was correct. Because if it wasn't, he might have just announced their location to the very enemies they were trying to escape. The response came back within seconds, and it was in perfect standard language. "Enhanced humans, we have been monitoring your progress. We are Commander THYSS of the HFY Justice Fleet. We are here to assist in stopping this illegal operation. What is your status?" Marcus smiled, feeling hope flood through his enhanced system. Sometimes his human intuition was exactly right. "Commander THYSS, this is Marcus Chun. We have 47 prisoners to evacuate and 50,000 refugees to protect. Can you help us?" That, came the immediate reply, is exactly why we are here. The coordinated rescue operation that followed was unlike anything Marcus could have imagined in his wildest dreams. Working with the HFY Justice Fleet, the three enhanced humans orchestrated the liberation of 47 enslaved specialists and the safe transport of 50,000 refugees to their intended destinations. Commander HYSS proved to be exactly what her transmissions had suggested, a being of absolute integrity whose primary concern was justice rather than politics. Her ships provided medical support, technical expertise, and, most importantly, legal authority to prosecute the members of the Efficiency Collective. The neural parasites used on the crew are particularly insidious, she explained to Marcus as her medical teams worked to reverse the effects. They don't simply incapacitate. They record everything the infected beings see and hear. The collective uses them to gather intelligence on potential targets and evaluate the effectiveness of their operations. Marcus watched the crew members gradually returning to normal function, their awareness filtering back as the parasites were neutralized. How long has this been going on? This particular slave route has been operating for 18 months, but the collective itself has been functioning for over a decade, mostly targeting species that lack strong interstellar government protection. Like humans. Exactly. Your colonies are isolated, your surface settlements are struggling to survive, and your homeworld government collapsed after the ecological disasters. From the collective's perspective, humans represent an ideal target species, intelligent enough to be valuable, but politically weak enough to be exploited. The weight of that assessment hit Marcus harder than he'd expected, not just because of what it said about humanity's current situation, but because of what it implied about the Evaluation Council's test. Commander, do you know why the Evaluation Council chose this particular scenario for our assessment? THYSS's reptilian features arranged themselves into what Marcus had learned was the Kethvar equivalent of a thoughtful expression. I was briefed on the evaluation process when they requested our cooperation. They wanted to see how your enhanced forms would respond to a situation involving both immediate physical danger and complex moral choices. But I believe there was another purpose as well, which was to demonstrate what your species could accomplish with proper resources and support. The enhanced forms you now inhabit represent not just individual improvement, but the potential for humans to become major players in galactic politics rather than victims of it. That evening, as the refugee transport reached the safety of Kethvar space and the freed prisoners received medical attention, Marcus found himself in the observation deck with Sarah and James. Through the viewport, they could see the lights of a massive space station that served as both a refugee processing center and a judicial facility. Hard to believe this morning we were just maintenance engineers and hydroponic specialists, Sarah said. Are we still? James asked. I mean, after this is over, do we go back to our regular bodies and our regular lives? Marcus had been wondering the same thing. The enhanced forms felt natural now, as if this was how they were supposed to be. The idea of returning to the limitations of their original bodies seemed almost impossible to contemplate. I think, he said slowly, that's going to be our choice. As if summoned by his words, Observer Zethys materialized in the observation deck. The alien's presence no longer seemed as overwhelming as it had in the beginning. Marcus realized that the enhanced form had given him not just physical and mental improvements, but a kind of confidence that let him face even highly advanced beings as an equal. Your performance in this scenario has been illuminating, Zethys began. Just one scenario? Sarah asked. I thought there were supposed to be multiple tests. The situation you just resolved was complex enough to reveal everything we needed to assess. You demonstrated technical competence, moral reasoning, collaborative ability, and perhaps most importantly, the capacity to make difficult decisions under pressure without compromising your fundamental values. Marcus studied the observer's alien features, looking for any indication of the decision that was coming. And the verdict? That will be determined by the full council based on the performance of all 12 humans currently undergoing evaluation. However, I can tell you that your individual assessments will be strongly positive. What about the others? James asked. The other 9 humans? They're facing scenarios appropriate to their backgrounds and psychological profiles. A former soldier is dealing with a situation involving interspecies war crimes. A teacher is attempting to establish communication with a species that communicates through controlled electromagnetic pulses. A medical researcher is working to contain a plague that affects multiple species differently. Marcus felt a surge of pride in his species. They're all in enhanced forms too. Yes. And they're all demonstrating the same qualities you have shown: adaptability, moral courage, and an apparently instinctive drive to help others even at personal cost. Apparently instinctive? Sarah picked up on the phrase. What we have observed in enhanced humans suggests that the capacity for altruism and ethical behavior increases rather than decreases with enhanced capabilities. This is unusual among the species we have evaluated, meaning that most species, when given enhanced capabilities, become more focused on individual advancement and less concerned with collective welfare. Humans appear to demonstrate the opposite tendency. Marcus thought about their experience over the past day. The enhanced abilities had made working together easier, not harder. The increased intelligence had made the moral choices clearer, not more ambiguous. And the enhanced physical capabilities had made them more confident in taking actions to help others, not more focused on personal survival. So what happens now? He asked. Now you have a choice to make. You can return to your original forms and your previous lives with the knowledge that humanity will likely receive technological assistance and political recognition that will improve conditions in your colonies and settlements. Or, James prompted, or you can remain in your enhanced forms and serve as humanity's first ambassadors to the galactic community. This would involve leaving your previous lives behind, but it would also position your species to take an active role in galactic affairs rather than simply being the recipients of aid. The magnitude of that choice hit Marcus like a physical blow. Return to the familiar but limited existence he'd known, or step into a completely unknown future where he could help shape humanity's destiny among the stars. How long do we have to decide? Sarah asked. The decision must be made before you leave this ship. Once you return to your colonies, the enhancement process cannot be reversed or reapplied. Marcus looked at his companions, seeing his own conflict reflected in their faces. This wasn't just about personal choice. It was about responsibility to their entire species. Can we talk privately for a few minutes? He asked. Zethys nodded and faded from view, though Marcus suspected the observer was still monitoring them somehow. Well, James said after a moment, that's not exactly what I expected when I woke up this morning. The question is, Sarah said, what do we owe to the people back in the colonies? Do we owe it to them to go back and share what we've learned, or do we owe it to them to stay here and try to make things better for everyone? Marcus walked to the viewport and looked out at the space station. Beings of dozens of different species were working together, processing refugees, administering justice, maintaining the complex systems that made interstellar civilization possible. I keep thinking about what Commander THYSS said about humans being ideal targets for exploitation because we're politically weak, and what Zethys said about enhanced humans being better at working together rather than more focused on individual advancement. You think we could actually make a difference? James said. It wasn't a question. I think we could learn how to make a difference. And I think we could help other humans learn how to make enhanced forms work the way they should, as tools for helping others rather than just improving ourselves. Sarah joined him at the viewport. The people in our colonies are going to get help either way. The question is whether that help comes with human representation or without it, and whether future generations of humans get the chance to become what we are now, Marcus added. The decision, when it came, felt inevitable. They had been given the chance to become more than they had ever imagined possible, not just individually, but as representatives of their entire species. Walking away from that opportunity would mean walking away from the chance to ensure that humanity's voice was heard in the conversations that would shape the future of the galaxy. When Zethys returned, Marcus was ready with their answer. We stay, he said simply. All three of us. We become ambassadors. And the others? What if they make different choices? Then we represent the humans who chose to stay, and they represent the humans who chose to return. Either way, humanity has a voice. Zethys studied them with those impossible deep eyes for a long moment. There will be training. Years of it. Learning about galactic politics, interspecies relations, advanced technologies, and diplomatic protocols. You will make mistakes. You will face situations far more complex than what you have experienced today. We'll learn, Sarah said confidently. That's what humans do. And we'll have each other, James added. That's also what humans do. Marcus nodded, feeling more certain than he had ever felt about anything in his life. We're ready. As he spoke those words, he realized that the evaluation had never really been about whether humans deserve to survive. It had been about discovering whether they deserve to thrive. And the answer to that question wasn't going to come from a single test or assessment. It was going to come from what they did with the opportunities they were given day after day, year after year, as they worked to prove that enhanced humans could be a force for justice and cooperation in a galaxy that desperately needed both. The sleeping man who had awakened that morning in shock had become something he never could have imagined, a bridge between humanity's struggling present and its limitless future. And for the first time in his life, Marcus Chun was exactly where he was supposed to be. 5 years after the evaluation, Marcus Chun stood before the Galactic Assembly as humanity's chief ambassador. The chamber was vast enough to hold representatives from over 200 species, each delegation accommodated in environmental suits or specialized atmospheric sections appropriate to their biological needs. Today was the day humanity would present its proposal for the Enhanced Human Initiative, a program to offer voluntary enhancement to humans throughout the colonies and settlements, with the goal of creating a cadre of enhanced individuals who could serve as bridges between baseline humanity and the galactic community. Distinguished representatives, Marcus began, his enhanced voice carrying clearly to every corner of the assembly. 5 years ago, humanity was a struggling species on the brink of extinction. Our home world was poisoned, our colonies were failing, and our people were being targeted for exploitation by criminal organizations. Today, we stand before you as contributing members of the galactic community, offering our unique perspective and capabilities to solve problems that affect all of us. The presentation that followed drew upon everything they had learned during their years of training and service. Sarah had become an expert in interspecies biology and environmental restoration, working with teams to heal damaged worlds throughout the galaxy. James had specialized in crisis management and interspecies conflict resolution, leading joint operations that had prevented 3 different wars from escalating to full-scale destruction. And Marcus had focused on something that had surprised even him, the development of ethical frameworks for enhancement technologies. The question of how to improve sentient beings without losing what made them essentially themselves had become one of the most important issues facing galactic civilization. The data we have gathered from enhanced humans operating throughout the galaxy confirms what the Evaluation Council discovered. Marcus continued. Enhancement technology, when applied with proper ethical considerations and support structures, produces individuals who are more capable of cooperation, more motivated by altruistic concerns, and more effective at solving complex problems involving multiple stakeholders. A representative from the Veltar hegemony raised a manipulation appendage. Ambassador Chun, what safeguards exist to prevent enhanced humans from deciding that their enhanced status gives them authority over baseline humans? It was a question Marcus had expected. Representative Veltar, that concern was thoroughly addressed during our development process. Enhanced humans maintain constant psychological monitoring and regular rotation back to baseline human communities. Additionally, enhancement is always voluntary and reversible, though the reversal process requires significant preparation. And what about the concern, interjected a delegate from the Crystalline Collective, that widespread enhancement could lead to the development of a human super soldier class that might threaten galactic stability? Marcus smiled, remembering his own fears from that first day of evaluation. Respectfully, Representative, our experience suggests the opposite. Enhanced humans are less interested in conflict and more interested in collaboration. The enhanced form seems to amplify the human traits that make us effective partners and allies. The debate continued for hours, with representatives raising concerns, asking for clarifications, and challenging various aspects of the proposal. But Marcus could see that the overall sentiment in the chamber was shifting toward approval. The success of the Enhanced Human Ambassador Program had created a foundation of trust and credibility. Finally, Observer Zethys, now serving as the Evaluation Council's permanent representative to the Assembly, stood to address the chamber. The Evaluation Council has monitored the Enhanced Human Program for 5 years. Our conclusion is that humans represent a unique case in our experience with enhancement technology. Rather than becoming more isolationist or aggressive, enhanced humans consistently demonstrate increased empathy, improved collaborative abilities, and stronger ethical reasoning. Zethys paused, and Marcus could feel the attention of the entire assembly focusing on the observer's next words. We recommend approval of the Enhanced Human Initiative, with the provision that it be carefully monitored and that enhanced humans continue to serve as a model for ethical enhancement practices throughout the galaxy. The vote, when it came, was overwhelmingly in favor. Not unanimous. There were species that opposed any form of enhancement technology on principle, but a clear majority that reflected 5 years of trust-building and successful cooperation. After the session ended, Marcus found himself in the diplomatic quarters observation deck, looking out at the bustling space traffic around the assembly station. Ships from hundreds of species came and went constantly, carrying trade goods, diplomatic communications, scientific data, and cultural exchanges that kept galactic civilization functioning. Sarah and James joined him, as they had so many times over the years when important decisions needed to be processed. Hard to believe it started with waking up uncovered in a strange room, Sarah said. The really hard part to believe is that we almost chose to go back, James added. Marcus nodded, but his attention was caught by a particular ship docking at the station, a transport vessel with markings he recognized. That's from Colony 847 Alpha. They watched as the airlock cycled, and a group of humans emerged into the station's concourse. But these weren't the tired, worn-down colonists Marcus remembered from his previous life. These humans stood straighter, moved with confidence, and carried themselves like people who had hope for the future. The technological assistance and political recognition that had come from humanity's acceptance into the galactic community had transformed life in the colonies. Clean fusion power, advanced life support systems, medical technologies that could reverse the effects of environmental poisoning. All of these have been shared freely once humanity demonstrated its value as a galactic citizen. Ambassador Chun, a voice called from behind them. They turned to see a young woman approaching, wearing the insignia of a junior diplomat. Marcus recognized her immediately. Dr. Elena Vasquez, one of the 12 humans who had undergone evaluation 5 years ago. Unlike Marcus, Sarah, and James, she had chosen to return to her original form and serve as a liaison between enhanced and baseline humans. Elena, good to see you. How are things in the colonies? Better than anyone dared hope, she replied. The Enhanced Human Initiative training centers are oversubscribed. We have 10 applications for every available enhancement slot. Any problems with the process? Surprisingly few. The psychological preparation protocols you developed seem to be working well. People go into enhancement with realistic expectations and strong support networks. The enhanced individuals who return to the colonies are integrating successfully with the baseline population. Marcus felt a surge of pride and satisfaction. This was what they had hoped for, not a division between enhanced and baseline humans, but a collaboration that strengthened the entire species. There's one thing I wanted to discuss with you, Elena continued. We're getting requests from other species to study our enhancement protocols. Apparently, our success rate is significantly higher than the galactic average. Other species want to adopt human enhancement methods. James asked, more than that, they want to understand why humans respond so positively to enhancement when most other species show increased aggression or social fragmentation. Marcus considered this development. It represented both an opportunity and a responsibility. What do our xenopsychology experts think? Dr. Harrison believes it has to do with humanity's evolutionary history. Species that evolve in competitive environments with scarce resources tend to become more individualistic when enhanced. But humans evolved as highly social creatures who survived through cooperation. Enhancement amplifies those cooperative tendencies. Which means, Sarah added, that human enhancement protocols might not work for other species without significant modification. Exactly. But they want to learn from our approach to see if they can develop species-specific protocols that achieve similar results. Marcus looked out at the ships coming and going from the station, each one representing lives, dreams, and possibilities. The galaxy was full of species struggling with the same basic questions that humanity had faced: how to improve themselves without losing their essential nature, how to become more capable without becoming less compassionate. Set up a conference, he decided. Let's bring together enhancement specialists from all the interested species and see what we can learn from each other. You think we can help solve this problem for the entire galaxy? Elena asked. I think we can try. That's what humans do. We try to help. And when we work together, enhanced or baseline, we usually find a way. As Elena left to make the arrangements, Marcus remained at the observation deck with Sarah and James, watching the constant flow of interstellar traffic. Somewhere among those ships were humans returning to their improved colonies, aliens traveling to worlds being restored through cooperative effort, and enhanced individuals of various species working together on problems that affected everyone. Remember what Zethi said about humans being unusual? Marcus said, about how most species become more individualistic when enhanced. Yeah, Sarah replied. Why? I was just thinking, maybe the reason we're different is that we never forgot where we came from. No matter how enhanced we get, we remember being those tired, struggling people in the underground colonies. We remember what it feels like to need help. James nodded slowly, and that memory makes us want to help others instead of just advancing ourselves. Which is probably the most human trait of all, Marcus concluded. As they stood there contemplating the future, Marcus thought back to that morning 5 years ago when he had awakened uncovered and confused in an impossible room. The shock of that moment had led to this, to a place where humanity could serve as an example of enhancement done right, where individual improvements serve collective good. The sleeping man who had awakened to find himself enhanced beyond his wildest dreams had discovered something that changed not just his own life, but the trajectory of an entire species. The shock of awakening had become the foundation of hope. And in a galaxy full of species struggling to balance individual advancement with collective responsibility, that hope was spreading from world to world, one enhanced individual at a time, proving that the most profound improvements weren't just about becoming stronger or smarter. They were about becoming more compassionate, more cooperative, and more committed to lifting others up rather than standing above them. Marcus Chun, former maintenance engineer and current chief ambassador for humanity, smiled as he watched the galaxy turning around him. The future was vast and full of possibilities, and humans, enhanced and baseline alike, were finally ready to help shape it. He had never slept more peacefully than he did that night, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges and new opportunities to prove that humanity's greatest enhancement was its capacity to care for others. The man who had awakened in shock had found his purpose in ensuring that others could awaken to hope.